Can I have a hug? No? Am I a dickhead? Can I have a big hug? Big run up? Big run up. There we go. So, welcome back to YouTube, guys. So, Bandit's just done his little trick there. He likes to hug me. Can I have a kiss? Big kiss? Can I... You're going to start growling? No? You okay? Right, okay, so today, filming with Robbie again, obviously. Today is going to be a bit of a mix. I've got quite a few things that I do want to discuss, and we are doing an upper session again, just with how my training days have landed and where I'm currently sitting at in terms of my current plan. I recently, this week, had my blood work done. Everything's came back happy days, which is obviously really good. So it's a weird one when you're getting blood work done, because you get excited to get it done, but then when you're driving on the route to get your blood work done, you're sort of thinking, oh, what ifs? And with who I work with, Youth Revisited in Grimsby, shout out to Youth Revisited, you get your blood work back literally within a couple of hours, like same day ship. I don't know anybody else who does that. And anyway, it came back all good, all singing, all dancing, which gives me like the green light to carry on doing what I'm doing. So at the moment, I'm sitting anywhere between, my weight's fluctuating a little bit, anywhere from 237 to 240. Currently in a push phase, calories in a really good spot. Like training day, I'm on just, I think it might be about 600 grams of carbs. I'd have to look at my spreadsheet. Rest day, about the mid 500s. Protein's held at 260, and fat fluctuates training day, rest day from like 50 to 65. Body comp's in reasonable condition. Again, that's perspective based. I always look at where I hold fat the worst. So a little rule of thumb for people in a push phase is focus on your fattiest body part. If fat gets too fat, you know you're too fat. So like with me, it's around the nipple area, and typically around the love handle area. Whereas like now, I've still got a showing of lines in my glutes at a quite a decent body weight. So that could be, some people might look at that and think, oh, Ben's good enough to keep pushing another 20 pounds, but I know I'm not, because your fat stores are different all over the show, and if I get too fat around my chest area, I know I'm too fat and I need to pull back. So I've been very patient with this push phase, post diet, etc., and I'm just trying to rinse it for as long as possible. I may or may not do a little tidy up for the summer holidays, got a couple of holidays coming up. So yeah, that's where I'm currently at, to be honest with you. I'm just trying to rinse and repeat the process. I'm not trying to bully anything on, I'm not trying to rush the process. Done that in the past, and I've chased scale weight and I got too fat too quick. You feel like crap, performance goes downhill, all that sort of stuff. And I think people are in too much of a rush now to gain muscle or lose body fat too quick. Like, you can only go as quick as what your body allows you to go. And it's scenario dependent. If you live a stress-free life and you can live like a bodybuilder all the time, then things may be able to progress quicker. If you've got a lot on your plate, then it's just circumstantial. You might not be able to push as harder, or things might not go as quick as what you envisioned, and then genetics come into play and everything else, chemical usage, etc. So I'm playing with the cards that I'm dealt, and I'm quite happy with where things are at this point in time. So I'm just going to rinse and repeat the process, and above anything, I always say enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, change what you're doing or do something else. That's literally the main thing that I'm all about. Like, if I started to resent anything, I'd switch it. Goal dependent, life dependent, and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to knock up some scran now. The famous eggs on toast. Robbie's probably going to get some more B-roll than me cooking eggs on toast. Might even create his own TikTok about creating eggs on toast. And yeah, go from there, see what I end up talking about. So Robbie just asked me a good question about blood work and about my test levels. So for reference, roughly the NHS sort of guidelines, testosterone, I think it ranges from like 7 or 8 all the way up to 32. 32 obviously being like a young 18-year-old full of testosterone. Now, with how I played my cards, my testosterone came back mid-range, which I'm more than happy with. And there's a massive link towards male suicide or depression and like low testosterone. But there's also holistic remedies that you can do to raise your testosterone, such as lifestyle factors, sleep, stress, and all that sort of stuff. And I think now more than ever, I think people are probably oversubscribing to think they have low testosterone. I do think it is a big thing in the world, but I also think people are too quick to hop on something that they may be able to fix with an holistic approach. So say if your testosterone is just out of the range you'd personally like it to be in. I think now people are just taking stuff for the sake of taking stuff instead of trying to holistically fix things. When I'm coaching people, I'll always try a holistic approach. Like another example would be someone's blood sugar levels. Instead of like what a lot of coaches may do, and I know it because I've fucking seen it, is they'll just tell you to take metformin without trying to do an holistic approach of changing nutrition, adding a little bit of cardio in, looking at other supplementation such as berberine, things like that. So I think now people do just go for, again, it comes down to like that quick fix mentality. But to answer Robbie's question, my testosterone came back at mid-range. And on the blood panel, I did a full athlete panel, so full lipid profile, which covers absolutely everything from vitamins to like liver values, all that sort of stuff. Like literally everything. I think there's well over 100 markers that it goes through, which is really good. It gives you a good insight, because sometimes if someone just gets like a basic blood work panel done, it may or may not show the full picture. So I do think it is important, if people can afford it, to get a full blood panel done, because one thing might correlate to another thing. You might be able to triangulate the information that you've got to fix one thing. So guys, got my leveled up version of eggs on toast here. I have been putting it on my Instagram stories. So basically what I do is get a bit of a mixed salad, air fry some pepper and some onion, bit of sauce, seasoning and stuff, and it just makes it that little bit more, like, I love eggs on toast. I don't think you can beat it as a breakfast unless you're a vegan or vegetarian. But if you make it that little bit bougier, just makes it that little bit more enjoyable. And again, I'll always say it, make your food colourful and tasty, and it's going to make you more adherent to your plan. And you might watch this and be like, oh shit, yeah, my meals do look a little bit bland. Stop making them fucking bland. So if you watch me for long enough, I'm a big believer in keeping things simple. That doesn't mean I don't get nerdy. However, I find beauty in simplicity. And I do the things that are necessary to get me from A to B, to keep moving the needle moving forward. Now, a little handy tip is, make sure you've got this in your pre-workout porridge. Basically, it's to do with your sodium-potassium balance, and you get a better pump. So it's not me saying have loads of salt in terms of like just go mental with it. So like in my pre-workout porridge, I have 2 grams of that, and I do perform better. My electrolyte balance is better. Because a lot of people say, oh, salt's the demon. It's fucking not. It helps with your electrolyte balance. And if your electrolytes are balanced correctly, you will notice performance increases. So just that is a very easy tweak or hack, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Like use salt is what I'm saying basically. So I'm about to make my protein sludge here. So basically you get a scoop of protein, put a little bit of water in it, literally like, that might have been too much, like literally you don't need much water in it. Then you mix it together, make sure it's well mixed. It makes eventually like a bit of a whey paste. You see loads of people putting on cream of rice and all that sort of stuff if you're into all that food TikTok-y stuff. Not that I am, I'm very aware of it because I've been doing it for fucking years. And suddenly some little gimpy influencer does it and everybody jumps on the wagon. But anyway, enough of me shit-talking influencers. So you see there, makes a bit of a sludge consistency. I'm not going to say moussey because it's not really a mousse, but it just makes it a bit sludgy. Then what I do is I just bang a little bit of fruit in that, and it's like a little side dessert. If you watch my last YouTube, I'll have done it on that because one of my friends, Seb, he asked me how to make some porridge, which still baffles me to this day, because if you can't use a microwave, good luck. So, like that. Then I've got my bowl of porridge. A little bit mixed feelings this week on my porridge because I got the home shopping delivered and they swapped my porridge to jumbo oats, and they just take longer. Not really a fan of jumbo oats. And that's when you know you're living this weird little bodybuilding lifestyle, when you get the arse on about what type of porridge you got sent in your shopping. So do yourself a favour, don't buy jumbo oats. Just get normal, cheap ass porridge oats. And if you're a little bit bougie, you branch out to like your Quaker or your fucking Scottish oats or whatever. But I just get the cheapest because there's nothing special about anything else. I think people think when people live in this online coaching bubble that everything's like really bougie and stuff. And I think that's person dependent. But if I won the lottery, I'd still shop at Aldi and Lidl. I really would. To let that set for like 10 minutes, consume that, train about half an hour, 40 minutes after, be dandy. So today, as I said, is an upper session. So basically all my upper body parts. I'm going to throw in a little bit of arms as well. I had a couple of clients asking me for some arm tips. My triceps are really sore, so I'll just see how I get on. If I move some blood around and they feel all right, I might do a couple of higher volume sets. Now, this week, coming back off a deload week, I'm staying a couple reps shy of failure. I don't want to call it reps in reserve training because I think people's perception of reps in reserve training is a little bit skewed, and they think it's like a little bit for bitches. Am I a fan of reps in reserves? I'm not saying I'm not a fan. I just think you shouldn't stay in reps in reserve. So my approach coming back into training is stay a couple reps shy of failure this week, see how I recover. Then next week, maybe or maybe not, move into 1 rep shy of failure, and it'll just be very biofeedback based. I think everything should be biofeedback based, because if I'm still really sore next week, then it's like, right, okay, I know this stimulus is enough to keep the needle moving. Whereas if I feel fresh as a daisy, it's like, right, okay, push things a little bit harder. That's why biofeedback is important. That's why a coach should be asking you how you're feeling, how training's going, how food's going down, etc. Because if I'm struggling with food's not going down very well, equally performance still isn't great, let's say, then maybe I need a little bit more rest, maybe I need to taper back volume a little bit more and switch around calories or make better food options. That's just one example off the top of my head. There's so many different variables that can come into play. So yeah, this week, couple reps shy of failure, monitor that, see how I feel, go again next week, dependent on the feedback that I have. So I'm going to start off on opening my back up. I find when I open my back up, I just feel a lot looser everywhere, and it just gets the blood flowing a little bit. Then probably move on to the pec deck after that. I do feel a little bit tight this morning, so I'm just going to start off with some dead hangs. When I'm trying to activate, potentiate, whatever the fuck you want to call it, I'll always try and find the most efficient way of doing things, because if you have like a 5 to 10 minute warm up or mobility routine, likely it is you're probably going to do it for a week and fuck it off. Whereas if I can just use something like this to make me feel better, then I'm going to do it on a more regular basis, and it's going to have more compound effect compared to doing loads of different stuff with bands and stuff. If I can make things efficient, I'm going to stick to it and I'm going to do it more. The aim there is just not to go to any remote failure other than just to get some blood into my back, get warmed up, onto the next one. So the pec deck is probably not taken now, but it was taken. So we're doing a good old cable fly, which I've not done in a long time, to be fair. Again, I love cable flies, but it's usually an efficiency thing if I'm not doing them, because it just takes a little bit more time to set up. One isn't better necessarily than the other. If you connect with one, do the one that you fucking connect with. There's no need to go into any next level detail on that one. However, I'll be able to give you a few cues through this one as well. So literally it's the exact same cues as a pec deck in terms of what you want to focus on is driving the bicep across your chest. And as I'm coming forward, sounds a little bit weird, but it worked. Shout out to Mike Van Wyck for this one. But as you're coming forward, pretend you're hugging a tree and you're reaching around. You still want to keep your back solidified against a backrest, but that little mental cue, pretending you're hugging a tree, just creates a different squeeze. One thing that I do get a little bit annoyed of when people say don't chase the pump. Why not? Because when your muscles pump, it shows that it's working. I think people misconceive it when they perceive it to be, oh, just train really light and just get a pump on. That's not the case. If you know a muscle is getting pumped, you know it's working. Go to failure still, don't be a bitch, but there's nothing wrong with that at the same time. So my chest isn't fully fresh today, I can tell, just from doing that. So I'm just gonna do one chest exercise today. I'll do 1 chest, 2 delt, 2 back, and 2 arm. 2 sets are each, ranging from 8 to 15 reps, depending on the exercise. And that's enough volume for what I've been doing this week. And then that's it, session done. A little tip for people when they're initiating this movement is make sure that your shoulders are pinned back. A way to do this is as simple as this. Push your ass forward an inch or 2, and then as you're getting into the exercise, retract your shoulders back, and then that's it, done. Another reason that I'm only doing one chest exercise today is on a Sunday, I have a weak body part day, so it's only 2 days from now. So if I just do 2 sets, should be thereabouts recovered for my Sunday session. My weak body part day, it was a leg day, but I need to work on other parts in my physique. So I need more hamstrings, so I'll do some hamstring, I'll do some arms, and I'll do some chest. They're my really lagging body parts. And I find it a little bit fun. It's like you're entering the session on a Sunday, you're sort of like, let's work on my shit that needs improving. So you have that bit of psychology aspect to it. Whereas sometimes before on a Sunday, sometimes I'll be absolutely buzzing for just a leg session. Then some days I'll like Sunday modes hit a little bit, like I'm about to full send it on legs as well. So there's a bit of psychology in that as well. And if you watched any of my shit before, I'm a big believer in look forward to your shit. Yeah, you're gonna have your odd days, but if you look forward to it, you're gonna enjoy it more, you're gonna train harder, you're gonna get more progress. So a little tip for people with this exercise is when you're raising it, what you would imagine is your fist is sort of clamped to the wall around you, so you're sort of dragging your knuckles around the room. What that does, it makes you focusing on not getting as much trap involvement and like shrugging it up, so to speak. One thing that I will say is if you're used to training to failure quite a lot, and then you're entering a phase of training with a couple left in the tank, bit of a head fuck, because you leave the gym knowing you worked, but you're like, oh, I know I had more in the tank, but it's being patient with that, because before you know it, a couple of weeks have passed and you are emptying the tank in the gym. So what I will say to people is be patient. I think when it comes to physique development, so many people are in a rush, like they've had 10, 15, 20 years, whatever, of bad habits, and then they suddenly think the shit's gonna be sorted in like a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever it may be. Like, do you really think after 10, 20 years of bad habits, all your shit's gonna be eradicated? Can you imagine starting a new career and you start from the bottom again and to be like, oh, in 3 months time, I want all my problems to be solved and all my money worries to be gone away. It's not gonna happen, shit takes time. That's why I'm a big believer in and fucking enjoy the fucking process. Right, okay, next we're gonna move on to a shoulder press. So I like the good old Smith machine for that. Equally, I do love a shoulder press machine, but I just fancy giving the Smith a go today. So one thing you may or may not have noticed about my training is it's quite rare that I use dumbbells. I still use dumbbells, just the ratio compared to machines is, let's say I use a lot more machine work. Now, a lot of my training principles are based around stability. Now, that's not me saying you need to be so fucking rigid and move like a robot. It's just if you're more stable, then I like to look at it like this. The more stable you are, the more force you can produce. The more force you can produce, potentially the more muscle damage you're gonna cause. More muscle damage you're gonna cause, better you're potentially gonna grow. And you're gonna be safe while doing it as well. So that's why I personally program a lot for my clientele and myself. A lot of it is around machine-based stuff, and there's a lot of tweaks that you can do with machines itself, like with all the cues that I say on my Instagram or YouTube. So one's not necessarily better than the other. I just have certain belief systems, let's say. Like gone are the fucking days when people say you had to bench press to get a big chest, and if you still believe that, you're a fucking idiot. Little tip for people when performing a shoulder press: as you're pressing, imagine your shoulder is trying to touch your earlobe. That little mind-muscle connection, you just make sure that you do fully contract your delt as you're coming up. Just a little cue for you there. I know it works because it works for me and my clients. So you might have to strip weight back a little bit from using that little cue, but my God, it fucking works. It's really weird when you're training, you know you're gonna stop a couple reps shy of failure, but you know the load you're shifting is still relatively heavy to whatever you do lift. It's like you're psyching yourself up to move a good load, but then you're trying to psych yourself down to not go to failure. Quite a mixed feeling thing to it. I'm not going to do triceps today. I can tell just from pressing they're not fully there to be able to train triceps, so we're just going to do 2 bicep movements on the end. So after this we've got 2 back exercises, 2 bicep, might throw in some leg raises at the end just because abs. We're all guilty of needing to do ab work more. That's it. Quite an easy, not an easy session, but simple. I like simplicity. Suits me down to a T. One thing that I will say is when somebody joins my team and they're an absolute beginner, I think people sometimes put off joining as a beginner because they think I just coach bodybuilders. That's not the case whatsoever. But when someone joins you as a beginner or with a beginner mindset, it's fucking mint because you can mold them into whatever you want to mold them into, instead of getting someone who's a little bit obstructive or fucking think they knows it all and then they just don't listen or something like that. So shout out to you beginners. Also shout out to people who aren't narrow-minded and willing to learn new shit. Like, you don't have to be in a certain camp with all of this shit. You just have to be open-minded. So we're gonna do one row exercise and one pull down exercise. So if you want to be nerdy, mid-back, lat focus, just to make sure I'm hitting the stuff in the back that I want to hit. And that's literally it. So I'm gonna do this row, and then to be fair, it's either, might even be another row, like a single arm row, or pull down variation with the cables. Just see how I feel after this exercise. But as long as I hit them 2 target muscles, I'm happy. Then move on to biceps. I think a gym rule needs to be created. Like, if you're a lad and you don't put your weights away, I think you should get a little tap to the sack. There's a little pre-warning, because you're a fucking melt if you don't do it. So again, on any pull down exercise, what you want to do is get into position first, retract your scapula, and then lengthen your lat, stretch, squeeze. So my biggest tip for people when they're training biceps is all you really need to focus on is driving your forearm towards your bicep. That's a basic mechanics of bicep. Now then there's little tweaks you can do. So for example, if you have in your head, if your upper portion of your arm is rested on this pad, if you lift your elbow up a touch, it does increase the contraction to help the muscle get shorter. So there is minutiae tweaks like that you can do, and there's loads of exercise for bicep. I always say to people, because this runs true with me, find the exercises that you connect with best and fucking rinse them for as long as what you can. So like with me, I will do a concentration curl like this, and then I'll do a hammer curl. I'm not gonna do a hammer curl today because my wrist is killing, so I'm just gonna do quite a few sets on this machine. They're the basics of my arm training. Nothing too nerdy, to be honest with you. When my wrist gets better, I will show a little bit more to do with biceps, but nice and simple, to be honest. Another little tip on biceps is, because you'll see people get into a bicep curl and they'll be like really hunched over and the shoulders get involved. Again, a little mental cue of keeping your shoulders peeled back and down. That's gonna eradicate the shoulder getting involved, and it's gonna isolate it more into the bicep muscle itself. You see a lot of people just lugging weight around. I'm like, well done, you're moving weight, but you're not connecting with it. Right guys, so that's my upper session wrapped up for the week. Again, stayed a couple reps shy of failure every set. Again, I'll say it again, based upon biofeedback from what I get from this week will lead on to my what I do next week. I'll just review that. Might do another rep in reserve, might do 2, just see how I feel, see what recovery's like, see how I'm looking as well, see how food's going down, etc. And shortly I'm actually off for a swimming lesson, so you may or may not see me on another YouTube fucking episode, but I'll give you a bit of a rundown, rundown on the next episode how my swimming lesson went. And I'll be honest, I'm really fucking nervous for it, but I know I need to learn how to swim better. I look like I'm drowning at this moment in time, so it is something that I do want to actively get better at, but I'm still nervous for it because it's something new. It's not something that I do. So yeah, thank you for watching the video. See you on the next one. Click like, share, subscribe, all that sort of shit. And hopefully you got something from this video, be it a form tip, be it a food tip, be it me rambling about life or bodybuilding in some fashion. So yeah, have a good one. If you're watching this on a weekend, have a lovely weekend. If you're watching it on a Monday, have a lovely Monday, or have a lovely week, whatever. But yeah, see you on the next one.